Hi everyone. I will first introduce ourselves. I was the sub-technical lead on the project. Then we have our project manager, Dries. And
Hi.
then we have our partner, Delaware, who is also on stage. I will first give an introduction on who is La Lorraine, and Delaware will be done by Philippe. Then we will explain why Bluefield with SMP, the project approach, and then the key takeaways. We at La Lorraine, we are a bakery group, so we are having 5 bakery categories: bread, viennoiserie, sweet on the go, savory, and patisserie. We have 18 bakery facilities all over the globe. We are supporting 35 markets. We have the dark red places, there we have production sites. The orange ones are the one where we are serving or delivering bread and or goods. Some key figures, we are almost at 1.5 billion turnover with 1 milling division in Belgium, and then the rest is bakery. We're still a 100% family-owned business and almost 5,500 employees.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just a small introduction on Delaware. I think most of the audience knows Delaware, but just to be on the safe side, let me explain a little bit who is Delaware, what we do, and how we position ourselves on the market. Actually, Delaware was founded 21 years ago in Belgium. About the time I also started at Delaware. Then we were 100 people, so 20 years later we are more than 6,000 professionals all over the globe, as you can see, in 38 offices in 20 countries. We take pride of being a full end-to-end IT provider, from customer experience over the platform to the business applications. So, and the business application is, of course, why we are here in the ERP market. The ecosystems that we provide are mainly SAP, so we have the full portfolio of SAP that we bring to the market, but we also provide customers with solutions in Microsoft, OpenText, and Salesforce. We have over 600 million of revenue, and if you have more questions on Delaware and the story, you can join us at the booth there around the corner, and I can listen to your story also, of course. Okay. We are partnering with SMP. So when La Lorraine asked us the question to do the move towards a private cloud, towards a S4HANA environment, we positioned SMP. So I'm trying to explain why we position SMP, because you know, on the market there are a lot of providers who take pride of doing the same, but we prefer SMP. Why? First of all, we want to combine some projects there. So when you do a brownfield, it means that you are doing a like-for-like migration, and it means that you are prohibiting certain projects, and that you are doing certain optimizations, certain innovation projects afterwards. Yeah? By choosing a Bluefield approach, you can do those projects beforehand. And you can combine them. For example, if you want to change your chart of accounts, or you want to change your controlling structure, your organizational structure, if you want to do that in a brownfield constellation, it means that you have to do it afterwards. And you are limited in the possibilities that you have. So Bluefield, because of the combining of different projects. It will take less time. I won't go too much into detail on that. My colleagues or my friends of La Lorraine will explain that. So it's possible to go near zero downtime with a Bluefield migration. Crystal Bridge. We know Crystal Bridge. Crystal Bridge is broad. We know that there are other providers on the market, like I don't want to call them by name, but the BTCs or the EPUs and what other providers. They are not as broad as Crystal Bridge. If you look at the mapping capabilities of Crystal Bridge, that's far broader than the other providers. So Crystal Bridge is a proven and a verified product. That's my next point. We know SMP, we know the product, we know Crystal Bridge, we know that it is proven. We have worked together with SMP on several cases, so we know it, we trust it, okay? We have less risk, so again, we always have a fallback in the Bluefield constellation, and with SMP, we can always fall back to the old platform. And as a last point, we have experience with the partnership with SMP. So we, with our functional/technical experience, combined with the technical experience of SMP, it really, the symbiosis that we have there, it's really ideal to have a risk mitigating project to do the Bluefield migration. Okay? Now, we are working with 3 parties on the same project, of course, and it means that we have to divide our responsibilities. I'm going to go from your right to your left, just La Lorraine. Of course, the key player in this project is La Lorraine. They know their business, they know what they do, they know what they need, they know how the operations need to be supported by the ERP system. So that's really, really key in this, because they are first of all, they will support their operations and their organization. And they also lead the like for like, because they are the best to know how the operations work and how the system works. And they know what needs to be moved towards the new system. So the like for like approach is really the responsibility of La Lorraine. Yeah? If we move then to Delaware, what they don't know at La Lorraine is what is S4HANA. What will S4HANA bring? What is the impact of moving towards S4HANA? How is the Universal Journal, for example, impacting how the system will be translated to the new S4HANA system? Huh? And there we need to make some smart choices. We need to see, okay, what do we need to do the migration towards S4HANA? Do we do it now, or do we do it later? It's not only a functional, technical, financial part, it's also the business part, and it's the organizational part. We need to be smart in what we choose to do now or choose to do later. And that is what we do in cooperation with La Lorraine to see, okay, how we divide the roadmap of the innovation and optimization. And then, of course, as a third party, our SMP party, who is really responsible for the technical data migration and the near zero downtime. Okay? Voilà. I'll give the word to my friends.
Yes. Why Bluefield? Why SNP? Well, we had a clear contract with the business. We had a 24-hour business downtime, which means that within 24 hours, we need to be up and running again, completely. And then we were looking for a tool, a partner, a possibility to do so. But we also had quite some data to migrate. So the 14 hours of technical downtime were key. In the beginning, it was a little bit more. But at the end, we reached less than 14 hours technical downtime. And afterwards, we were able to do this within 20 hours. So we had some spare time left to do some extra checks. That's the reason why at the end we chose for SNP, because they were having a tool which made us able to do so. Why blue? Because Bluefield is in fact one of the rainbow colors that you have in the possibilities to migrate from an ECC system to S4. Blue, which means that you migrate data, but you also have the possibilities to change some basic stuff on your SAP system. So a brownfield, what we first explored, was about 7 days of downtime, which we could not do because we had a clear contract with the business of 24 hours. Yeah. So SNP, why? Proven record of SNP references, and also the option to activate the near zero downtime, which means that in a couple of steps we are in fact migrating data up front, and at the end we only have a minimal downtime. There were also some other things functionally, but this will be explained by Dries.
Thank you. So once it was clear, let's say, for our company that we would head it with SMP in a Bluefield approach, then we also wanted to investigate, okay, are there any changes that we could include in the scope of the project, of the migration, which would be very hard to migrate after the go live. So the Bluefield gave us a window of opportunity to include some changes, and after an assessment facilitated also with Delaware, we came up with these 5 changes, being, first of all, we also extended our financials chart of account from 6 to 8 digits. Why? Because in the next coming 3 years, we know for sure we will move from Belgian GAAP to an IFRS GAAP, so we will need to have more space for the chart of accounts. In addition, we also activated a new GL, but also we implemented and activated the parallel ledger approach, because we were still working on a single ledger with a multi-account way of posting at La Lorraine. And also we decided to activate the document splitting, which would allow us also to start reporting on the balance sheets on a different level than the legal entity, like on the business unit or any other analytical dimension as well. And I think the biggest change was also the reorganization of our fixed assets. So we had to really reshuffle our depreciation areas and the fixed asset module as well, to really make sure that both the local posting, the local valuation and the group valuation was coming out of our new S4 system in a rather automated way, so that we could step away from the manual adjustments in the consolidation layer. And also, yeah, business partner conversion is a mandatory step, but we decided to do this as part of the migration project itself, using the Bluefield technology. This also allowed us to do this as part of the project itself. Let's have a quick look, let's say, at the project approach and how we did it, in fact. So first of all, I think it's very important to keep in mind in our philosophy, we really wanted to implement a like-for-like approach. So the reason is very simple. We just want to safeguard our business operations, minimize the risk, and make sure that we can absorb the change and the move to S4HANA as quickly and as fast as possible, to really make sure that we can keep operating our core operations. So typically, the metaphor we were always using in our communication with the business was driving the car. So we always said to our business users, you're going to drive the car. And from the moment we switch from the core ERP to the new S4 system, you should not notice that you're driving a different car. So everything in the inside should be the same, but we're really changing the engine behind of the car. That was the philosophy of our project. Now we're already live, so we went live in March. The project is already closed, so now we are really stepping up with the phase 2, which is the transformation phase, and we're really starting up the projects with, for example, the Fiori layer, because we did not take that one into scope, or any other kind of new functional change on the S4 roadmap. Yeah, our project plan, if I briefly explain how it went and what we did. So in every Bluefield migration, at the minimum, you have the TM0, TM1, and TM2. That's the bare minimum, and the dress rehearsal. It was the same at La Lorraine. Only we had one additional migration, which is called the TM3, which was not foreseen. I'll explain why. I'm not going to really explain step by step what we did. I think what is more interesting, perhaps for you, is to explain where in these different project phases we had to make a change in our project plan, or mitigate or something for something that we did not foresee or learned, let's say, on the path of the S4 move. First of all, perhaps at the very start of the project, you have a blueprint together with the people of SMP. And at first, yeah, we also had the intention to have some kind of a cleanup during the transition, for example, by eliminating the inactive legal entities, which we also had in our company. But while we having these sessions, at the end, when we did the assessment ourselves, we could only really cleanse, let's say, 1 or 2% of the data. And at the end, we decided not to do any kind of filtering on the migration. So during the blueprint design, we decided to migrate everything one-to-one from the old to the new system, including also the things that were not active. And the reason why is just minimize risk, because there is a very nice methodology behind the Bluefield transformation of SMP, but it also comes, you have to do mapping, it comes with a risk, and sometimes you have to test more. For example, if you have a pricing record which is not linked to any sales organization, yeah, it will not be migrated, for example. Or if you have a shipment without deliveries, these are then things that you have to figure out during the testing. For us, it was not worth the risk, so we just decided to take a full copy with also a little bit of inactive data as well. Another topic which became also more clear during the blueprint was the way how SMP was going to migrate the data. So SMP will migrate the transactional data. The customizing is started at the beginning. But of course, there is a very gray area on the definition what is customizing, what is transactional. So we really went a deep dive on all of these tables. So we made a kind of a mapping between what is real, what is customizing, what is transactional. For example, if you maintain an exchange rate or opening the fiscal periods, or a cycle in cost center accounting, or route schedules. These are all examples of customizing tables, but business-wise, these are transactional. So there we took a deep dive. We also spent time on archiving. We have a very good methodology already internally at La Lorraine on archiving, but we invested more time on that, which also gained, let's say, 1 tera of additional archiving before the project started. Then when we started the business partner migration, we also had conflicts in our number ranges. So there we decided to minimize risk again, to change the number ranges of the active vendors upfront. It's something that we did ourselves. So at the moment of go live, there would be no change in the numbering from a business point of view. And then with the Bluefield methodology of SMP, we then migrated the history of these old number ranges at the moment of go live. It was also a risk-reducing measure. And then when the TM0 started and was finished, only then the decision was taken that we would need the near zero downtime. So at the beginning of the project, it was not really clear if it would need it, yes or no. It was, yeah, okay, the SMP needed to have a kind of a first assessment, which is why the TM0 is there for. And from the moment it was decided that, okay, for La Lorraine, for our business case, the near zero downtime, we really need to have it to reach a target. At that point of time, it also meant, yeah, additional implementation time for SMP. So it takes about 4 or 5 weeks in addition to change their conversion model and to start activating the near zero downtime. And this is something that, yeah, that we didn't anticipate. It was not part of our project plan. So then we became a bit tight to reach the target. And that's also why we then had to decide to start working a little bit more in parallel. So all of the subsequent TM cycles, we had a bit of kind of an overlap when we started, for example, TM1. The SMP delivered TM1, we started testing, but already after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, SMP already had to start with the next TM cycle, and in the meantime, we were still continuing to test the previous cycle. And the only way to do that is that we would work on two systems, our cost system and also our productive system. So we're working a little bit more in parallel, and if defects would come out during the testing and SMP already started, okay, we had some flexibility to still include these defects while they were already starting with their next TM cycle. Then also the TM2 was the big UAT, because at that point of time we were already finished from an IT point of view. So we also had to do some scope reductions to really make sure that we reached the downtime. So we decided, and this is, we decided to don't include the mapping on the parallel ledger within the Bluefield, but to do it afterwards. It's not it's not because of downtime or something. It's purely La Lorraine internal, functional, because it's pretty complex to make this mapping from a business point of view, and was again increasing the risk of having a correct and a good result. So we decided to move that outside after the go live to make a manual adjustment posting and to start with the parallel ledger at the moment of go live itself. We also decided to the document splitting, and that's an important one. It takes a lot of time in the migration itself to perform the document splitting of the historical data. So after the UAT, we also had to decide that to reach the target of the 14-hour technical downtime, we took out the document splitting of the past. So we went it live with document splitting, but only from the new records as moment of the go live. And then after TM2, let's say the business already accepted the full testing. So business said, okay, it's all fine, it's working well, the data is fine, the system is working well. But then we needed to have a third TM3 just to make sure that the migration process would run smooth enough. Plus also we still needed time to really reach the downtime. That's why we had a third TM cycle, but it was not for the business. It was purely technical to really check and make sure that we could reach that downtime targets. To have a viewpoint on the go live, how did that went and how does the near zero downtime then actually works. So we went live physically on the 15th of March, but we already started loading the data from the current ECC system to our new S4 platform already as of the 18th of February. So our system was still uptime, so we could still continue our operations, but we already starting to extract the data, which is the initial migration, which means the biggest table, which would take a lot of time, those were already migrated between the 18th of February and, let's say, beginning of March up front. And then from that point of time, there were 3 iterative delta cycles. We would migrate the deltas of these really large tables between the beginning of March and just really before the go live of the 15th of March at 3 a.m. By doing so, when we really had the shutdown of the system, which then happened at 3 o'clock in the morning, we only had to migrate a very small portion of the big tables, which consumed most of the time, plus all of the other tables, the smaller ones. These were being migrated in the real downtime periods of the 15th of March early morning. And then it took, the target was 14 hours, it took even far less. And then once SMP was finished with the technical migration, we then, from La Lorraine point of view, we started to perform the cutover activities, also do a last data validation check before we really go live to really check is the data correct enough. And we did some golden testing, which means we tested the real core operation flows with the core interfaces. We tested first internally ourselves before we would hand over to the business and release the system. And then we went, actually we went live earlier than anticipated, so at 9 o'clock we could already release the system to the business. And then on Sunday we had we were already live, and then we had a kind of a detailed plan to activate every interfaces one by one. And somewhere around noon Sunday, all of the interfaces were already up and running, and we were, let's say, 100% live with the project. If you look at the results, so first of all, if you look at the downtimes, at TM0 and TM1, we did not really finish completely the migration cycle. So, of course, 98% was migrated, but we are still blocking on the financial data, mainly because of the document splitting and also the trial balances. These were not, we were not able, let's say, to finish the job at TM0 and TM1. And TM2 was actually the first time when we completely migrated everything, including the financial data. To give you an idea on the timing, so at the TM2, the total downtime needed was then around 27 hours. But the 27 hours is not a throughput time of the testing. It takes, SMP takes just their time to run the migration cycle, and they learn and they see, okay, this can go faster, they do next cycle and they measure again. So the 27 hours is the measurement of all of the best steps in that cycle. So we still needed quite some time to reach the downtime of 14 hours. Now, of course, the majority of the improvements were made, of course, in TM0 and TM1, not in TM2. And TM1 and TM0, TM1, I don't know, it would take 1 week or something for downtime. TM2, they really changed and really fine-tuned a lot of things already. So at TM2, we were about 27 hours. Then, of course, there was not much time anymore because we already finished the UAT. And that's also why we decided then to take out the document splitting from the scope, to take out the historical document splitting of the past out of the scope, which would gain us 10 hours, but because it took 10 hours for SMP to perform the document split of the entire past historical data, which would leave us back to 17 hours. And then that's also why we had a third cycle. And at that cycle, with additional improvements from SMP, because they're the real experts on that, they already reached a very nice target of 9.5 hours. And at the go live simulation, they even reached 6.5 hours of physical technical downtime, which is really an amazing result. And then at the moment of go live, they had more time, so they took a little bit more time to do some additional spot checks, and then we ended up with less than 8 hours of technical downtime. And also from a functional result, at the end there was only one I think S&P only had to intervene once at the moment of go live to make and that's really a minor change, to make one small correction on the data at the moment of go live. So that was also a big success. And also from a functional side, there's here a simple graph where you can see the evolution of the defects. After 1 week, we already reached the normal threshold of the number of tickets per day in a normal business day. So we had, of course, a peak in the first 3 days, but already after 1 week, we were already really stabilized in our company, let's say. So it was really very flawless and very good go live, both from data, quality, downtime, and also a functional result as well. Of course, in order to reach that result, let's say a couple of takeaways that we bundled together. Yeah, everybody knows in these kind of projects you need to have a lot of testing and you have all of these iterative cycles. But for me personally, also one of the advantages of near zero downtime is that you take out the stress at the moment of the go live during the cutover weekend itself, but you can already, since they're already starting the loading, in our case as of the 18th of February, we also agreed with S&P that we do some minor spot checks at the moment they were already loading the initial migration, and then between the initial migration and every Delta run, we were allowed to do it with, not with too many people, but we were allowed to take some minor spot checks to really check the data quality as well. It was one of our lessons learned also, because in TM0 and TM1, there were some issues happening on the financial data, with, for example, the ALC-DOCA table, which is very hard to change or to correct after the migration. That's why we did some really key, we call them breakpoint checks at the moment of the migration itself. This is for me also from a customer point of view. Besides the downtime, it also provides you more time and comfort to do quality checks at the moment of the cutover as well. The blueprint topics, again, so I think it's useful in your case, do you really want to cleanse your data or not? If it's really not worthwhile, if it's really small effort, I would advise just take over everything and don't do any filtering if you want to minimize the risk, of course. And also think about the gray area of customizing transactional. It's a technical definition of an SAP table, but from a functional point of view, there's really a very large gray area. And that also comes, it's also an important aspect on the data migration. For the near zero downtime as well, if you want to consider that, because I understood yesterday from S&P it's only 10% of the implementations who are using this functionality, but it's of course increasing. If you consider doing that, just make sure in your project plan to foresee buffer time, because if you want to make the switch from normal to near zero downtime, it takes about a couple of weeks for S&P to make the switch in their system as well. And also in our project, these are, let's say, the more generic ones. Change management is very important. So also we struggled a little bit with communication during the projects. So at a certain point of time, we introduced the role of a local coordinator in every country who was responsible cross-domain to really make sure that the communication was coming down in the right way, to capture frustrations or lack of communications or whatever, to really onboard these people and to have these local countries really close to us, to headquarters on the project. Also, typical topic is the resource allocation. It's how can you make sure to allocate your business resources on the project? So what really was really helped in our case was to define a definition in the UAT testing between core and non-core testing. Core are the really business critical tests that you really have to perform. The non-core is, let's say, the variants or the nice to haves, that we have also very clear targets. That together with the on-site testing and with a clear and transparent service management tool really helped to reach the target as well, and to have the resources allocated. And then finally, to conclude, in your project, you have different roles that you really need to have good people for, and also focus, which is the role of the project manager for the overall coordination, but also the test manager really needs to have a full focus on that. And then also the cutover itself is something that should not be underestimated, but that's also something that you really need to have focus for. So in our project, Kurt was the cutover manager, and I played the role of the project manager combined also with the test management. This is for us, let's say, a short introduction and conclusion on how our journey was with the move to S4 together with Delaware and S&P. And I would say if you have any questions, we're still here. I think that you can be here. We will still be here about 30 minutes if you.
Thank you so much. Sorry for interrupting. Just wanted to clarify questions we're going to be taking over in the speakers corner. You guys already know the drill. The speaker corner is right around here because we're going to actually transform the stage into something completely different. So we would like to invite you three and everyone who has a question to just meet right over here in our so-called speaker corner. All right.
you.
And I would like to pass on something a colleague told me. All right. Because I really appreciated this. You have demonstrated very well. When there is no time for downtime, it's S&P time. I like that. Okay, maybe we should copyright it or something. We can, you know, be partners. Okay, so thank you, and a round of applause, please, once more, and join them for the Q&A. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.